Okay. All right. So we have enough of you. So we'll get started finally. I have a little bit of notes here. So this is what we're going to talk about. So before we do, I just want to tell you a little bit about where we have been and where we are going to be going, and why we have Vida here, and what this is all about. So as many of you know, this is the second version of the course that we are offering. The first version was about a 12-month long course, I'm going to just send a message to see if we can reduce the volume downstairs a little bit. Yeah, thank you, please. These are all the glitches of having a live cast, right? But we're prepared for this. Okay, so we had a 12-month long course, and it was a great course. Many of you attended, and students enjoyed, I enjoyed. We had a lot of fun, but we did have a few problems with it. There was a lack of consistency in what we were delivering. So while I know that we had fun, I realized some students had learned some topics well, while some students had not learned at all. Some topics were learned very well, whereas some topics, the entire class was just doing very badly on it. So there was an overall lack of consistency. And the other problem was the class was me. It was all about, what I could bring to the class, how well I could deliver, and how much knowledge I had. And I felt that was very limiting, and we really needed to change that. This is not how other schools work, right? Colleges don't work like this. You won't attend a human psychology college and have one person's idea being taught there, or an engineering or a medical college. So we knew that it had to, in order for it to be a serious education program, it had to be more than just me, and it had to be more consistent, and we couldn't have these issues with different students learning to different degrees and different topics being learned to different degrees. We really needed to get better at that. And that was where BHARCS was born. This was the concept of BHARCS, and it's not new really. There are other organizations that do such education programs as well. But what we wanted was, we wanted to make sure we're setting up absolutely the best possible education program in this field. It wasn't just about, hey, writing a textbook or giving you 2 textbooks and saying, go read it up and we're done, and that's, you learned. Rather, I wanted to make textbook writers of you guys. You are the content creators. You need to become the researchers and the opinion makers, and equipping you with the skills to get there is really what this was supposed to be about. And given that we're from Bangalore, definitely the idea was to make sure that we're leveraging technology in a powerful way, so that people anywhere in the world can be learning from us, from each other, collaborating, doing collaborative research, people sitting in other parts of the world doing research on street dogs, us sitting here learning about the research that's happening in other parts of the world, all of that. And we wanted to bring people and ideas together. So it's really a big, grand vision. It's a gold standard for education with animal behavior and dogs. And so I knew we couldn't do it on our own. I mean, look at a beautiful place like this, a beautiful restaurant like this. You need a consultant, right? You need a consultant who'll come and tell you how to set up a restaurant. What do you need to do? What should be on your menu? When you're doing education too, you need a consultant. You need somebody who knows how to design education. So that's where we sort of brought in Laser. And we have Vida from Laser here. She's here completing the final stages of our approval process. And so I decided we're going to get her and pick her brains a little bit on what this whole thing is about. So welcome, Vida, to India, and welcome to Bangalore.
Thank you very much.
It seems like you're enjoying the weather here, though we are complaining.
It's much better than the weather in England, I can assure you.
Vida, yesterday we had a fairly long discussion on what, and we did a little video as well, on what, this whole accreditation is about. What I thought I'll do is, maybe I'll quickly summarize what you spoke about, and maybe you can tell me whether I got it right. So, anyone can sort of say, hey, I've learned a few wonderful things, and here's a diploma, and I'm going to teach this to you, and here's this diploma, you can learn it. Maybe it could be learning some new computer software like CAD or counseling or hairstyling or something. I'd like to teach it, and I'll go to the printing place and bring certificates and give it to you, and here's a diploma. Now you guys come in and say, wait, hold on. We don't consider you a training center in our books until you do this a certain way. Your education, your units have to be designed a certain way, so that it's not just you, Sindhoor, teaching, but other teachers have to be able to teach it. Maybe even other institutes need to be able to take your units and be able to design different courses. And you also need to have all your policies and procedures in place, because you have all these students investing so much time, effort, and maybe their careers are riding on this. So do you have the policies and procedures to actually run as a education institution? And once you're set up, you're then also looking at making sure that we're continuing to deliver a quality education and evolving constantly. So continuous QA and evolving. Is this roughly what it is?
Yes, it is. It's partly what it is, absolutely. I think really the key word is standards.
Right.
And what it is about making sure that you as a training centre are doing what you're doing and what you do so well to a certain standard. So you have all the expertise in canine behaviour. We don't have that expertise at all. That's yours. And we would not assume to try and come in and tell you what, in those terms, you should be teaching. What we look at is how your centre's set up, what kind of experience you're giving your students, what kind of experience you're giving your staff and the people who are working for you, how it's all coming together, and how you're achieving those certain standards. The other thing that's really important is that students don't just come to you to be taught, they come to learn. And it isn't just about what you and your expertise and your knowledge can tell them and give them and feed them. It's about what the students can take on board themselves. So what we're looking for at the level of qualifications that you're going to be delivering is, can these students look at something and evaluate it and carry out some analysis, carry out some research of their own, go away and think about what it means and actually apply the skills that they're learning as well. And the way that we then need to know whether or not each student has done that is by looking at their assessment of what they've learned. So, as I said yesterday when we were chatting, it isn't enough for a student to say, hey, I'd love to know all about this, and to turn up and sit in one of your classes for a day and go away and say, yeah, I listened all day and it was great. What we need to know is, have you taken on board, have you understood, have you internalised, can you apply? And so it's not just about the teaching of what you know, it's about the assessment of the students as they're learning through the process.
Right. So, we will get a little bit deeper into this. So, guys, if you have any questions, do start sending that to us. And, I have my laptop screen here, so I will ask Vida those questions. But I'll start with one of my own. Through this process, we've been working on this for a few months now. And a big part of the process has been unit design. We've done, and a big part of the cost is also unit design. So could you explain a little bit about what unit designing is and what is the significance of it? Why is this such a central part of this whole accrediting process?
Okay, so the units are essentially what the student is going to learn whilst they're with you. But also, as I was referring to earlier, what they're going to be assessed on. So all of the teaching material sits behind the unit, but the unit essentially says at the end of the course, these are the things laid out point by point that every student who is successful in achieving the qualification needs to either know or understand or be able to do. So units are set out in a standard way, although, as I say, it's entirely your content that goes in there, but the layout and the structure of the units is such that you and a student and anybody else can look at a unit and know instantly what the student has learnt and achieved on this course.
Right. And you mentioned to us the way we design the units, we're not just designing so that it makes the course delivery standardized, but we're also designing it in such a way that if there was another institute cropping up doing something similar, it is structured well enough so that they're able to pick up some of these ideas and build their own course out of some of these units. So it's really generic and there's a long-term thought to it and not just thinking about what I need to teach them right now.
It is. I mean, behind the unit, as I say, sits all of your teaching material, and that's your intellectual property. So you own everything that goes behind the unit. The unit doesn't detail everything that you will teach your learners. What the unit details is what the learners will know or understand or be able to do at the end of their time with you.
Right. Yeah, so Dee has a comment here. Dee has been helping us with the instructional design for some of the tasks that we are looking at. Dee and Anjali was not able to join us today, unfortunately. And Dee has been focusing on adult learning and how adults should be learning and how there needs to be an exploratory facet to it. And as you rightly point out, it's not about teaching, but it's about learning and figuring out what is the best way for them to learn. And so there's a lot of exploratory stuff in there. There's also a lot of research in there. And what we were talking about yesterday is we were talking about how the research and the primary research that we have in takes this education level up a little bit to say a level 2 or a level 3. What are these levels, Vida? Can you explain that to us? And where, when we say a level 3 course or a level 4 course, what is it we're trying to say of our course?
The level of a course is a way really of standardising and being able to compare different courses that might have completely different content. And it's also a way of being able to compare vocational courses, such as your own, with more traditional academic routes, such as A-levels, because every qualification will have a level assigned to it. So the easiest way to think of this in terms of the qualifications of yours that we're looking at is that a level 3 qualification is equivalent, not necessarily in size, because a qualification can be any size at all, but it's equivalent in level of challenge and difficulty, if you like, to A-levels.
Right. So that's fantastic, Vida. When we're talking about units, we talked about levels, and we also spoke about something called as credits. And Manogna has mentioned this. She's asked a question on our website. If you go look at all the units, to us they look like topics, but against each there seems to be something called as credits. What are these credits, and how does this credit system work?
Okay, so the credit system is about the size of the qualification. So if you think of a graph with a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, the horizontal axis will show you how big a qualification is.
In terms of time.
In terms of time, which I'll come back to because that's the credits that you're talking about. And the vertical axis will show you how difficult the qualification is, starting at entry 3, working up through entry 2, entry 1, and then levels 1, 2, 3, 4 and upwards. So you could have a tiny qualification at a low level, or you could have a tiny sized qualification at a high level, and equally a huge qualification at an entry level or a huge qualification at a high level, and every possible variable in between. So the way that we measure the size of the qualification is through how long it will take a typical learner, and I know there is no such thing as a typical learner, but how much time on average it would take a learner to achieve the qualification or the part of the qualification. In this case, if we're talking about a unit.
Right.
So the units are the building blocks of the qualifications. So if a unit has a credit value of 3 assigned to it, let's say, you multiply the credit value by 10. So in this case, you'd have 30, and 30 gives you roughly the number of hours that we would expect, again, this typical average learner that doesn't exist would need to put in to achieve the unit. And it includes a whole range of things. So it includes time that they may be taught face-to-face by a trainer or a tutor. It includes time that they will go away and do self-study or research, as we've talked about. And it will also include time that it takes for them to be assessed.
Right.
And then, again, maybe a whole range of methods that might be used to assess them. Some of them might assess their knowledge and understanding. Some assessments will assess their practical skills.
Right.
But all of that time goes together. So in this hypothetical 3-credit unit, we're saying it's going to take you about 30 hours to achieve this piece of learning.
Right. Moving on from there, Vida, speaking a little bit about policies, we spoke a lot about policies and how these policies are here to protect students, and we've been working back and forth on a lot of policies. Namita has a question about this, we've not seen policies like this in India. So what are these policies? When you say policies to protect students, how do these policies protect students? Could you give us an example or two?
Yes, certainly. That really, it's about making sure that every student has access to the same learning experience and can expect the same thing of coming to do a course with you. So some of the policies you would hope you're actually never going to need, such as malpractice. So you need a malpractice policy there, which says that if there's ever a situation where you discover, or indeed anybody else at all discovers, that somebody has done something that isn't quite right, and it might be a member of staff or it might be a student who's done something that they shouldn't have done, for example, cheating in an exam, or getting their friend who did the course last year and did really well to write their assignment for them. Or if it was at staff level, then it might be a member of staff who doesn't mark a paper as they should do, and because they like the student and it's a really lovely student and they've not quite done what they need to do to pass, but we'll give them a couple of extra marks so they do pass. Those are the kinds of things we mean by malpractice, and what we as an awarding body need to know is how you as the centre are going to deal with those situations should they ever arise. And as I say, the hope is that they never will, and it will be a policy that you'll never need to revert to. But the important thing is that if it did happen on day 1 and it happened again on day 57, you would deal with those situations in the same way, and that then makes it fair on yourselves as the centre, as staff members, on students, and as I say, comes back to making sure that the students have a fair and equitable experience.
Right. All right, so one last question, and then we will sort of wrap this up a little bit, because the party is getting started downstairs. So there is all this that has gone into setting up this little academy of ours where you've been working with us. But it seems like this is not anywhere close to the end. This is the beginning, and you're going to be working with us throughout for as long as we're functioning. What is it that you're going to be doing with us? Why are you continuing to be engaged with us? What's going on here?
This is really important, and you're absolutely right. This is only the beginning for you. So yesterday, as you say, we spent a long time working through everything and making sure that everything is in place. in order for you to achieve your approval, and congratulations on achieving that. What it means now is that you can go out, you can deliver your courses to your students, you can assess those students, and we apply continually a sort of top layer of quality assurance over that. So internally in your centre, you've got your trainers or tutors, however you like to call them, who also will be carrying out assessments of the students. You'll then have somebody who's performing a role called internal quality assurance, which sounds terribly grand, I know, and really is making sure that all of your assessors are working to the same standard. And as I say, we haven't got somebody who's been passed when they've done a lot less or done something that isn't sufficient to achieve a pass. We then look again at a level that's called external quality assurance. So we're looking to make sure that your internal quality assurers, as well as your tutors and assessors, are doing things consistently and to a standard. And only when we're satisfied of that will we release your certificates for your successful students who've achieved the whole qualification.
Yeah, so Kalyani's asked a question on quality assurance and why are we doing this all along and how long it will go on. So you've answered that it's going to go on for as long as we are going to be delivering here. Vijaya has asked, there is a lot of unlearning to do, and will the standardization affect people coming from different backgrounds? Will there be flexibility? And from what I understand, the standardization is on your part to make sure all of us who are involved in teaching and assessing are maintaining a standard. It's not to say that we don't have flexibility in what we are delivering, and it is not to say that we don't have flexibility in what activities we give our students to learn a certain topic. And that's where working with an instructional designer and my skills and our skills come into play, to figure out how to design the perfect set of activities and learning activities so that no matter what background you come from, you're able to learn it. The standardization is where they come in and say, hey, however it is that they learn, can you make sure they've all learned the same things? And can you make sure they've all proved that they've learned? Is that correct?
Absolutely, and that's why you got your approval yesterday, because that is something that you fully understand and you've just explained really well. It's not our job or our responsibility to come and tell you how to teach, or how to teach to learner A and learner B, because learner A and learner B might have completely different learning styles, different backgrounds, different needs. That's your job.
Yeah.
That's what you're the expert in. We're the experts in assessment and quality standards.
Right. Okay. So I think we'll have to wrap up at this point, because we do want to go get some beer as well in this lovely brewery. I just want to tell you a little bit, guys, on just wrapping up. So as you can see, it's really been a lot of hard work to make sure we set up this gold standard of an academy for you. It's with you in mind, to enable you as the learner, or if you want to be a researcher, or you want to be coming up with new inventions, or you're investing in a career, what will get you there and really make you the best of what it is that you want to do, and the best at what you want to do. It's not a 1.5 year course where the instruction ends at 1.5 years and the learning ends there. It's rather the beginning of a certain way of learning, which you're going to be learning for the rest of your lives, and we want to set you up for that. And we're really putting our sweat and blood into it to make an academy that you are just going to be proud of, to have belonged to once upon a time, to have learned in once upon a time, and to say, hey, I'm a BHARCS alumni with pride. And that's really what my dream for all of you is. So the final courses are not yet on offer, because we're in the final stages of working with Laser, as well as final stages of working with AmberTag, who's building our software for us. That's right, we're getting specialized software built for this as well. We're embracing technology in every which way. So there's going to be a flurry of updates over the next few weeks, and we're very, very close to launching it. We're going to bring it all to you on Facebook and Instagram. But for now, we're going to go and relax with some beer. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Bye.
Bye.